All right, so you guys should have task number 11 out. Looks something like this. Nathan, you want to get rid of that telephono, please? Yeah, that's super cool. Jaron, will you have a seat and get out your packet? So this is just a continuation of what we've been working on the last couple days, last week, where we're trying to figure out the slope, the Y-intercept, the X-intercept, what they actually mean in the context of the problem. And then in this case, we have to come up with the equation our own selves. What if I just like did that the whole 30 minutes? All right, so here we go. The first question says, to prepare for a recent road trip, Jill filled up her 19-gallon tank. She estimates that her SUV will use about 3 gallons of gas per hour. Write a function g that gives as an output the amount of gas remaining in Jill's tank after t hours. Nathan, what would the slope of this equation be? She's got a 19-gallon tank. She's using 3 gallons of gas per hour. What's the slope? Right, so the real world meaning of the slope is that she's using 3 gallons per, whoops, I just double purred. 3 gallons of gas per hour. And that gives us a slope of -3. Are you guys feeling that? -3. No, she's driving, so the car is using the fuel to propel the vehicle, okay? I was literally Sorry to bother you there, young man. All right, Talia, what would the Y-intercept of this graph be? 19, yep. You are good, and what is the real world meaning? Where did that 19 come from? Yep, that totally makes sense. How many gallons in the full tank? Okay, very nice. Okay, now the X-intercept is a little bit tricky. It's a little bit harder to find. You have to do a little bit of math, and sometimes there isn't one. It's a good thing we called on one of the brighter students in the class. What's the X-intercept? Ouch. Love it. 6.3 repeating, right? Good. Okay. So the X-intercept is 6.3 repeating. How did you get that? Okay. Yeah, the X-intercept is a little bit trickier. It's not usually going to be given to you in the context of the problem. You have to do a little math to figure it out. So what is it that that 6.3 repeating means? Matthew? Excellent, yeah. How long? I was, because there's a kid out there, he's not there anymore, but he was standing on that porch. It looks like, well, it was a different kid. It looks like they had just come in from playing in the snow, and he was standing there in shorts with no shoes on. I was like, what the heck? Yeah, right, yeah. Like, what are you doing out there with no... You might want to do that in the house. It's like 30 degrees out. Weird. Okay. And then we can put that together, Dylan, to come up with an equation. It says write a function g, so I'm going to start with g equals -3x, yep, because she's using 3 gallons, and I think they want us to use t, so -3t, and then plus the y-intercept, which is 19. Yep. Okay. You did it. Nice job. Okay. J. Ron, did you get that? Okay, because it's either you or McKenna coming up next. All right, next one. Roberto deposits the same amount of money each month into a checking account. Use the table to write a function b whose output is Roberto's balance after m months. Okay. Now, a word of caution to McKenna or Jaren, whoever gets this question. Notice that the number of months is not going up by 1. Okay. So you're going to have to do some math here to figure out if they started with $255 and then 2 months later at $365, how much money did they put in each month is what we're looking for. Okay, so Jaren, how much did their balance go up by from month 1 to month 3? I'd say... Jaren? Jaren? 110, and if it took 2 months for that to happen, how much did they deposit each month? 55. Awesome. So the slope is 55, and the real world meaning is that they deposited $55 per month. Yep. No, that's all right. I appreciate you asking questions, making sure you understand. I wish all of my students were like you. Okay, so the slope is 55, and it's from putting in $55 per month. All right, same thing. We're up on our game a little bit here. McKenna, this is definitely you. What is the Y-intercept? If they're putting in $55 a month, and after 1 month they had $255, how much did they start with? Yep, absolutely right. The Y-intercept is 200, and what does that represent in this problem? No, that's the slope. What does the Y-intercept mean? The balance, the what? Balance when? No. Okay, it's the starting balance. I thought you had it. It's the starting balance. Yeah, I know. Okay, so in this case, the Y-intercept is the amount of money that they started with. Okay, so McKenna figured out that if, who is this? Roberto. So if he has $255 after the first month and he's putting in $55 a month, that means that he must have started with 200. Okay? So that's a 0, right? Yeah, that's a month 0. Yeah. Okay, Talia. What's the X-intercept? This is a tricky one. I like that you went 200 divided by 55 or whatever you just did there. Okay. What would be the X-intercept? I'm asking the class now because it's kind of a tough question. The X-intercept is where the graph would cross the x-axis. So let's think about what the graph is going to look like. Where does the graph start? 200, because McKenna said the Y-intercept was 200. And then we're going to add 55, so it's going up. Yeah, where will that cross the x-axis? It will not cross the x-axis because we're adding forever and ever. So that's none because, no, you were thinking that's a hard question. In this case, Roberto won't ever run out of money because he's always adding money to his account. Well, then the context of the problem would change, and so we'd have a chance to change our answer along with that. Okay? All right, so then we need to use that information back to you, McKenna, to come up with an equation. And I'm going to ask you guys to maybe start paying attention a little bit to the letters they want you to use. So it says use the table to write a function b, whose output is Roberto's balance after m months. So we're going to use b for balance and m for month. I'm asking McKenna. $55, so it's going to be b equals 55m plus the 200 that he started with. Yeah, is that what you're going to say? Yeah, for sure. And in one sense that might make more sense because 200 is where you're starting and then you're adding 55 after that. Yeah, but this is the form y equals mx plus b that you guys are taught. I don't know why they do it that way. I would prefer to do it the way that you said, but nobody asked me. Okay. All right, next one. The freezing point of water in degrees Celsius is 0. In degrees Fahrenheit, it's 32. The boiling point of water is 100 degrees Celsius and 212 degrees Fahrenheit. Write a function whose output is the temperature in degrees Fahrenheit as a function of the temperature in degrees Celsius. So this is a tricky one, but it's a really common one because people have to change between Celsius and Fahrenheit all the time. So what they're saying is a Celsius temperature of 0 corresponds to a Fahrenheit temperature of 32, and a Celsius temperature of 100 corresponds to a Fahrenheit temperature of 212. So first thing we need to figure out is the slope, Jaron. That's what we're about to figure out. Funny thing you should ask. That's exactly what this problem wants us to do. What is the change? How many degrees Fahrenheit did it go up? 180. From here to here went up 180. How many degrees Celsius did it go up at the same time? Okay, good. It went up 100. So what is the slope? What's 180 divided by 100? Don't think about it, just say it. What? What's 180 divided by 100? Just say it. There you go. I think when you, I know, but I think when you take your math test, you have to not think. You got to just, because when you get on the roll like you did at that very first problem where you figured out the X-Intercept, it's like, right. And then when we start to slow down, we start to think about it, then the gears start to freeze up a little bit, and that's when you, so when you retake that state test or whatever in the spring, you got to just like, I feel like you get one more chance, but I'm not 100% sure. What is the real world meaning of this? What is the real world meaning of this? This is a tough one. It's not quite as, the real world meaning of the slope of 1.8. Right. It means that when Celsius goes up 1 degree, Fahrenheit goes up 1.8 degrees. When Celsius goes up 1, Fahrenheit goes up 1.8. Okay, what's the Y-intercept? Mm-hmm. What's the Y-intercept? 32. Okay, what does that mean? Yeah, like Matthew said, the Y-intercept is what you get when x is 0, and in this case, the x is the Celsius. Yes, it is. Yeah. Okay, what about an X-intercept? Let's think about the graph again. We're starting at 32, and then what are we doing? We're going up or down? Is the slope positive or negative? Is the slope positive or negative? Positive, so that means from here we're going up, okay? So that means we will have no, oh, you know what though? We will on the other, it's going to be back here, which is okay in this case because we're talking about temperatures. So we can have that. Negative degrees, yeah. So how do we figure out what the, yeah, so how do we do that? What do we divide? You divide by 1.8. What do you divide by 1.8? 32. Good. What? 32 divided by 1.8. Okay, so the X-intercept would be negative 17.7. That's how many steps we would have to go backwards. And the real world meaning of that is that when it is negative 17.7 degrees Celsius, it's 0 degrees Fahrenheit. That doesn't really have a very good real world meaning like the freezing point of water like the other one had. Okay, so what's the equation? We know the slope, we know the y-intercept. Oops, sorry. We want Fahrenheit. Fahrenheit is equal to 1.8 times the Celsius degrees plus 32. So, a shorthand way that I have learned to change Celsius into Fahrenheit, Jaron, is if you take the Celsius temperature and double it and then add 30. You're going to be in the ballpark. Technically, you're supposed to multiply by 1.8 and then add 32, but if you're like just traveling somewhere where they use Celsius and you don't want to do that complicated math, you just double it, add 30 here in Australia. What's that? Yeah, but you might be in Croatia where you don't have service. Or if you, yeah. Okay. Okay. Okay, what I just said is a quick way to get the Fahrenheit temperature from Celsius is to double it and add 30. Yeah. Instead of multiplying by 1.8, which is a little bit less than doubling it, and adding 32, which is a little bit more than 30, it kind of balances itself out. And then what did you say, where'd the 1.8 come from? Oh, I took the change in the Fahrenheit temperature divided by the change in the Celsius temperature. 180 divided by 100. Thanks. Uh-huh. All right, next one. At the beginning of October, Monique changed banks and decided to leave the remaining $3,900 in her old checking account to pay for rent. After 6 months, her balance was down to $1,200. Write a function B whose output is Monique's account balance after T months. So once again, we're dealing with money, 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 money. Am I better than Adam Levine? Okay, Matthew, what's the slope? She starts with $3,900. 6 months later, she only has $1,200. $450. Okay, good. And it's a negative, yeah. Okay, and what that real world meaning is, yeah, because her balance went down by $2,700 over the course of 6 months. So 2,700 divided by 6 is 450. Not telling. Jaron? What's the y-intercept in this case? . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . Nope. There you go. Y-intercept is 3,900, and that's because that's how much the money she had to start. Or as McKenna said on the other one, that's her starting balance. That family is homeschooling. It sounds task at hand. Next question is, what is the X-intercept? Since our slope is negative this time, we will have an X-intercept. Sadly, at some point, Monique is going to run out of money. Nathan, when is Monique going to run out of money? If she starts out with $3,900 and she's spending $450 on rent every month, how long has she got? Or tell Matthew what numbers to type in a calculator and he'll do it for you. 8.6 repeating, how'd you get that?
I divided 3,900
Negative 450. Okay. And what did you get for that again? 8.6 repeating. Okay. And the real world meaning is that is when she hits bottom, when she turns to the bottle, when she hits rock bottom. Okay, so now we can, whoops, I want to use the right variables, sorry. Now we can put this all together into some sort of an equation. So what would that equation be? Dylan? B equals 8.6 repeating? This one? 0? 0. B equals? No, 8.6 has nothing to do with in the equation. Okay, 3,900 because that's how much money she's starting with. And then she's going to subtract from that.
Oh, we're not doing
We are. 450, and they would like us to use T as our variable. Okay? Yeah. Let's see. All right, we can get one more in. All right, last one for today. On a scuba diving trip, Kate and Kara reached a depth of 130 feet. 6.5 minutes later, after ascending at a constant rate, they were only 13 feet below the surface. Write a function d that gives their depths as a function of time in minutes. So at time t equals 0, they were 130 feet below the surface of the water. And then, when was it? Yeah, 6.5 minutes later, they were only 13 feet below the water. So, how far up did they go in that time period? 117 feet up in how long? 6.5 minutes. So, how much did they go up per minute? What? 18? Okay. So the slope was going to be 18, and the real world meaning is they are ascending. I know, because they're going up. I switched these around and made them negative because they're below the surface. Ascending 18 feet per minute. We took the total distance that they had gone up, which is 117 feet, and we divided it by the time it took for them to go up that amount. You get the bends, yeah. What's the Y-intercept? What was their starting depth? Negative 130. Yeah, I don't think this is really how it works. I think that you are supposed to stop and stay at a checkpoint for a little while. But okay, what is the X-intercept? So this time the X-intercept is going to be important. Yeah, it's going to be how long it takes for them to get to the surface. They start at 130 and they're going up, so at some point they will make it to the top. If they're 130 feet below and they're going up 18 feet per minute, how long is it going to take them to go to the top? Did you go 130 divided by 18? What's 7.2-ish? Okay. 7.2. Oh, okay. And the real world meaning of that is that how long it takes. All right, so what is our equation? E equals negative 130 plus 18. Okay. All right, we finished that task, but not the lesson. You want to hang on until we're done with the lesson mechanics if you have them stapled together already? Okay.